channel, and welcome to episode 8 of the Sunday Sum Up, where I go over some news on gaming, some news on TV shows and movies. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, happy Easter. It is Sunday. Hopefully I will get this up today. It's it's almost 5 o'clock right now. I got a kind of a late start on this one, but I didn't record last week, so Normie daughter was in the house. She was on spring break, so she flew out and hung out with us for a few days, which was really nice. We got to chill out, have some fun. She's graduating really soon, so it's crazy. I was just looking at some photos of her when she was just like 2 years old, 4 years old, and boy, does fucking time fly by. So she was here, and she hadn't seen the Batman movie, so I got to go back and see that again. That was kind of our thing for basically almost all of the MCU and even the DC movies and stuff, but superhero movies that's kind of like our weekend thing. You know, she would come over and we would go see the latest MCU movie or the latest DC movie. And I kind of got her into it. I was like I said, I didn't grow up reading comics or anything like that, but I did grow up watching like 89 Batman Returns, even the Joel Schumacher goofy shit. When Iron Man came out, the original Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. And, so I do have some affinity for these characters. I don't have the knowledge that the core fans have, but I love the genre all the same. Even though there is a little bit of superhero fatigue is what's being passed around. That's like the nomenclature. But to me, I just think I don't think it's necessarily the superhero genre. I think there's just a lot of political agenda bullshit that's kind of fucking it up, but that's just me. I think people would be, if you look at like Spider-Man, when Spider-Man came out last year, and it was Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's the third installment for the Tom Holland trilogy. I think that movie is really good. I don't think it was perfect. There were things that I didn't like about it, but the reason I think that movie was so successful, number one, Spider-Man is like the iconic comic book character. Even to us normies, when you say, name a superhero, it's probably either going to be Superman or Spider-Man or Batman. That's just the way it is. They're just it's like a American staple, in pop culture. So when that movie came out, I was really excited to see it, and I thought it was a really good movie. But the reason why I thought it was a real good movie was because it kind of shied away from the crap. It shied away. Now, it hitched its wagon to the nostalgia, and it definitely made sorry, I gotta adjust my headphones. My headphones are a little bit loud right now. It definitely used the previous trilogy to its advantage and used Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, but I think it was overall just a genuinely good movie. With the nostalgia stuff stacked onto the fact that it was just a good movie and didn't focus on like current political climates. I think that's why it was so popular. And I think if Hollywood would just fucking stick to that recipe and make movies for people to enjoy and watch and to escape, I think they would get our money a lot easier. But it's just more and more, the current politics and the agenda it just permeates through all of pop culture right now. It's just super annoying. But going back to see Batman for the second time, it definitely was a better movie for me the second time. And here's why. Number one, I know how long it is now, so I don't feel like I'm wondering when the end of the movie is going to come. Going into it, I told Normie daughter, and I took my mother along with us too. So Normie mom was there, and I let them know, like, hey, this is going to be a long movie. It gets a little long in the tooth. The third act isn't the greatest, but I think you'll like it. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. But for me, the runtime didn't really bother me. For me, the movie went by pretty quickly. Like, it just moved right through, even though I knew what was coming. For some reason, all of a sudden the credits rolled and I was like, that really wasn't that bad. Also, I think like picking up a few things here and there that I didn't catch the first time I watched it definitely helped. I appreciated the movie a lot more, and that's always a good sign. Often I'll go see a movie, especially when after Hollywood really started, going political, like really heavy political and agenda and message. There was a time there when before where I was that normie customer who was consuming everything they put out and just eating it up and asking for seconds. And it was around the time that Black Panther came out and The Last Jedi came out, where I was watching the movie and I'm watching, reviews or reviewers on YouTube. I'm reading reviews online. I'm listening to podcasts talk about it, and they're telling me how great it is. Like, I heard so much how great Black Panther was, and how the villain was so, oh, what's the word? It was like Marvel's greatest villain. It had the most impact, the most weight, and the most sympathetic villain. And The Last Jedi was like a tour de force. It was like the story of Rey and everything that was going on. It was like I was hearing all that, and I was actually, for myself, like leaving both of those movies. That was the first time I walked out of the theater thinking, was that movie really that good? Like in the theater, I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's funny, or that's sad. And then, as I'm walking to the car, talking with my family about it or my friends, and, we're talking about what we liked. And I'm deep down, I'm like, I didn't really like that. There was something about it that just rubbed me the wrong way. It wasn't that good. I thought, Warmonger's character in Black Panther was shit. I thought the character was stupid, and I thought the whole point of the movie was cheesy. It was silly. But at the time, I was still under the influence, of media, and I was drinking the Kool-Aid. And then when The Last Jedi came out, I watched it, and then I went back and I saw it. I forgot who I went to see it with first, if it was just my wife and myself. Then I took my daughter, and then I think I took my mom. So I saw it 3 times in the theater. And every single time that movie got worse. Every single time. And that was when I really started questioning, like, what the reviews that I was listening to and reading and the podcasters and things. I was really starting to question, what the fuck were they watching? What are you watching? Because that's not what I saw. And that's kind of when I broke away from sort of pop culture media. And I really started turning off a lot of the podcasts that I would listen to, because as I said before, I've spent months and months. If you were to add up all the time that I've listened to podcasts, it'd probably be over a year worth of time. I used to listen to podcasts so much, and YouTube podcasts in general as well. I know that people use the term podcast, but for me, and even myself, I use that term for myself. To me, podcasts are audio. They're not visual, so you don't really have videos. But I understand they've blended together, because when I used to listen to podcasts, it was all on iTunes, and I had all these subscriptions, and I would just, every week I'd get alerts, and then I'd be listening to them while I'm working, while I'm driving. So, but back to the movie, and the review that I gave, and I never did do a spoiler review, and I don't think I will, but I did have some gripes, and I still have gripes. But for some reason, they didn't stick out as bad. The Riddler character, I don't think it's the right character, but I didn't find him that annoying or that awkward or cringy. I just didn't. I think that's a good sign. Now I want to go back and see the movie again, because all too often, especially in the past, 4 or 5 years ago, there were things that I was watching that I would think it was so good. And then I'd go watch it again, and I was like, it's okay. It's pretty good, But this was different. So I think it's a good thing. I think it speaks volumes for the movie, and the quality of the movie. It is, there is still some stuff that was annoying, some agenda crap that just fucking annoyed the shit out of me. But I still think the movie was good. And like I said, the family enjoyed it, so that was good. It was a good time. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm watching right now, because I will be doing a review of Moon Knight. I started that. I'm not going to get into it here, obviously, because I would like to just do a dedicated review. And I think how I'm going to break it up is I'm going to review episode 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, because it's only 6 episodes, and to kind of save on time so that I don't have to cut a review like every week during the week. I can just, do it every other week. It'll be done. And I think we're on episode 3 already. So I've only seen 2 episodes, and I think this show is worth a review. Surprisingly, so far, it's worth a review to me. It's not as bad as the Halo TV series, which is fucking garbage. But I'm watching that, and then Normie wife got me watching this show called Flight Attendant, and it's on HBO Max, starring Kaylee Cuoco from The Big Bang Theory. I like The Big Bang Theory, the show. I think it's a funny show, a good sitcom, and I think she's a good actress. I think she was good on the show, and I think in this show, Flight Attendant, I think she's good. It started off strong because I think they're on season 2 right now. Season 2 is airing as we speak. So we're going back and watching season 1. It's a show that Normie wife has been wanting to watch for a long time. And so she watched one episode, or the first episode, and said, "You should watch this. I think you might like it." The first episode of season 1, I thought was really good. I thought it was shot well, thought it was directed well. I liked the music. I think the acting was good. The plot was good. And I thought the second episode was sort of carrying that torch and was doing a good job. And then we watched the episode 3 a couple nights ago, and it really, like, the political bullshit was there in episode 1 and 2, but because the story was intriguing and the acting was quality, and there was so many pluses on this side that when the agenda rolled up and reared its cringy ass ugly head, it wasn't as bad. I could dismiss it a lot faster because I didn't give a fuck. When they started talking about this, the regular crap that the agenda comes out when it comes out, it's the same talking points, but it was easier to move away from them because the show to me was quality. Now, episode 3 came out, definitely was a departure, but then we watched episode 4 after that, and it kind of got back. So then it got me checking it out. I wanted to go see. I looked on IMDb, and that show has it's got like 4 or 5 different directors. So the first 2 episodes were directed by one person, and then the third was by a different, and the fourth was by a different. So I started checking the whole season. So I can't really fault the show too much for that because it's not a singular vision. Every director has their own style. They have their own cadence. Their influence is different because everyone's creative process is different. So I can't fault it too much for that. But that third episode was just choppy as fuck. The pacing was just off, just felt really off. But I mean, I'm still going to continue to watch it. I'm not going to do a review on it, but I just kind of wanted to touch base on what I'm watching right now. So Moon Knight and Flight Attendant are the 2 things we're just kind of going through them. It's nice that Moon Knight is not all dropping at once. I miss the weekly shows. I miss shows that have a weekly schedule. I'm not a huge fan of the binge model as much as I understand it, and I have binged plenty of show in my day. I think that it's not good for shows. I don't think it's good for the mind share of the show because when you binge it, it comes and goes so quickly. It's easy to just move along to the next thing and just totally forget about it. And I think that kind of speaks to just culture in general. Like, most people nowadays don't want to sit through long videos or long TV, or I'm sorry, like TikTok. Like, that's probably the best example. TikTok is like very short videos, and I don't have TikTok, but I watched like the YouTube shorts, which are basically just TikTok videos. I get it. I understand the mentality because I fall victim to it as well. When I get on those shorts, I'll just sit there and swipe, and they'll be just totally different things. Dog training, reviews on rifles and guns, what is this one's? Oh, the boss, like a boss compilations where they show all these people doing this cool shits, these cool things. I mean, I get it. I understand, but I just miss that sort of water cooler talk. I miss the weekly tune in, and I think it's better for just shows in general. I think it just keeps them around longer. And again, I'm not against binge models. I get it. I think that Amazon and Disney are doing the right thing by dropping these shows once a week. like a regular scheduled programming type thing. I think it's better for their show, and I think they see that. But I know you may hear that and be like, "Oh my God, you're such an old man. Like, what's wrong with binging?" Nothing's wrong with it. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's something that can be maintained. I don't think, because when you have so many shows, when you have $100 million show or a $50 million show, and it comes out, and then it goes away in a weekend. That can't be good. That can't be good for any of the streaming models. So, but I like Moon Knight so far. Getting back to that topic, I like that it's dropping weekly. I'm not sure if Flight Attendant is. I have no idea, because like I said, we're watching season 1. We're binging the show. But I mean, I'm not the type of binger these days where I can just sit and spend all of my Saturday or Sunday or a night watching a show. There's too much to do on my plate. So, all right. So that's where I'm at with what I'm watching. Let's get into some of the, we're going to do the film industry news first. As always, first on the docket is Last of Us actor did not play the video games. This was an article, and it doesn't surprise me at all. Let's see, that was on let me find that article real quick here. Yeah, that was a Video Games Chronicle article posted by Chris Scullion. Title is Pedro Pascal created a healthy distance from the Last of Us game to prepare for the TV series. So reading some of this article here, Pedro Pascal has revealed that he deliberately didn't experience too much of the Last of Us game in case it affected his preparation for the upcoming TV adaptation. The Mandalorian actor who will play Joel in the small screen adaptation of Naughty Dog's critically acclaimed game series told GQ that he was wary of his performance turning into an imitation of the video game version of Joel, a character portrayed by Troy Baker. That's the voice actor in the game. Explaining that he didn't have enough skill to play the game, Pascal said he watched his nephew playing instead. That I understand. I get that. If you're not a gamer, picking up a controller and just diving into a third-person action game or a first-person shooter, anything outside of something that's like turn-based, that's very slow. Some people just don't have that hand-eye coordination if you're just not a gamer. And I get it. That's totally fair. And I think that I appreciate him at least saying that. However, he says, I watched for as long as I was able to that day, and then I had to leave Florida, he recalled. I found Joel so impressive. I found the whole of it such a visually impressive experience. And then I got worried that I would want to imitate too much, which I think could be right in some circumstances and then a mistake in others. So right there. Let me finish. I'm sorry. So I just wanted to create a healthy distance and for that to be more in the hands of Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, the creators of Neil Druckmann. I don't know who Craig Mazin is. I don't recognize the name, but Neil Druckmann is the creator of The Last of Us 2. He's I don't like the guy. He's kind of a douchebag, this Neil Druckmann guy. But anyways, back to Pedro. I think what he was saying was fine. However, he said, I watched for as long as I was able to that day. How long was that? 5 minutes? An hour? 3 hours? So to me, the problem I have with this is actors. I have no issue with actors wanting to put their own spin on the roles that they're cast. I get it. It's art, and actors, they want to create and make a memorable role for themselves, for their careers. That's fine. But they also don't research the fucking shit anymore. They don't research their characters. You look at any sort of modern IP that has an adaptation that goes into a TV show or a movie. It's a common theme where you see a person who claims that they're a nerd and that they read all these comic books, and they take like 2 or 3 fucking pictures and they post them on Twitter or Instagram of them holding a comic book, and that's supposed to, like, all right then, oh okay, so they're big comic book readers. No, they're not. And you can always tell. At least I can tell when them posers are out there saying that they're fans of shit, or that they've worked and researched and read a bunch to get familiar with the character. Bullshit. You can always tell. And you think of someone like Brie Larson with Captain Marvel, where she had someone take a photo of her reading, and she was like, "Oh, I'm reading up on the stuff, getting ready for my role." No, you can tell she didn't read shit. You can just tell. And also, when actors say, when they start going into a role and they start talking about the platform, it's full of shit. They're just thinking of their fame as a way to get their political message across, which always sucks. And I'm not saying that's what Pedro's doing, but I just think I don't like the fact that he doesn't want to take the time to research the character. Now, I'm not saying that he's not trying, or that he's not going to act well, or he's going to phone it in, but it just, to me, that's a red flag, because it's been going on for so long that whenever these little red flags come up, typically it means they don't want to adhere to the IP because they want to change the IP. They want to rewrite history. They want the character to be this new current political or current message character that adheres to and bows down to all of the many demands that people on Twitter have. And it sucks. It sucks. The Last of Us, the first game I really loved. I didn't play the second one. And part of the reason I didn't play the second one was because of Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog, the studio, the shit that they had pulled leading up to the game, the attitude that they had towards the fans. I'm not going to support it, and it's okay if you did. That's fine. Just for me, no thanks. But the first game was fucking magical. Loved it. Okay, moving along to the next one. Speaking of video game adaptations, Paramount Pictures makes episode 1 of the Halo TV series free on YouTube TV. This, to me, this is just a desperate move to try to get their show to get a bigger audience. They're trying to get more eyes on the show. I was going, like I said before, I was going to do a review on the show, but it's trash. It is trash. I watched the 3rd episode. I just watched it on my lunch break, and I'm sitting there eating lunch at work, and I got my phone out watching it, and it's just it's terrible. I don't know what they're thinking, but they're not even trying. It just seems like no one is trying. I don't recognize the Halo TV series at all as Halo. To me, it looks like a guy cosplaying as Master Chief, and all of these other characters, they suck. They're just terrible. Their acting's bad. I think if there's anything that it has going for it, some of the visuals are kind of neat. Like, they're kind of cool looking, but you spend a little bit of time watching them, and like, it starts to look bad. Like, you can start to tell that the CGI is shit. So I don't know. And I think this to me is a desperate attempt to get more people to watch the show. And it's so funny. As I was reading this and looking it up, they already greenlit a season 2 for the show. Maybe fucking wait and see how this show does first. We haven't. I think they've released 4 episodes right now. I think they're on episode 4 has been. I think it was dropped on Friday. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 8 or 9 episodes long, and they're already They actually, and what I read was that the show was greenlit before it even aired. So, yeah, I would not hold your breath. If you're a fan of the show, I would not hold your breath if the show is going to actually get a season 2. And maybe by the grace of God, they fucking knock it out of the park. Like, episode 4 through whatever, until the end of the show, it just picks up and takes off, and it's amazing. But I do not see that happening. I think the show is garbage. So let's move along. Speaking of garbage, Warner Brothers is putting Ezra Miller on pause after the shit that happened in Hawaii. So this was an article I saw over on Rolling Stone. Where was it at? Here. Yeah, here we go. This guy's a fucking tool. He really is. He is a piece of trash. So the title here is Ezra Miller Arrest Prompts Emergency Warner Brothers Meeting About Star's Future. So I'm not going to read. This is a very long article. I read through about 80% of it. It was, most of it was just like some of the stuff you already knew. Like, it was just a lot of sort of rehashing what happened in Hawaii. But the newer stuff was what I was interested in here. So apparently, let's see here. I'm going to pick up in the middle of this article here. So on March 30th, Warner Brothers and DC executives held an emergency impromptu meeting to discuss Ezra Miller's future with the studio following the Flash star's recent arrest for disorderly conduct and harassment. According to a knowledgeable source, the consensus in the room was to hit pause on any future projects involving Miller, including possible appearances in the DC Extended Universe. That's interesting. Let's see, and also too, what's the latest one? Like the Dumbledore or whatever, the latest Harry Potter, he's in that too. And Warner Brothers, Warner Brothers is, they own the Harry Potter IP and the DC universe. So, and he's in two of the biggest franchises, on the planet, being DC and Harry Potter. And this may just fuck it up for him. So it says the studio has more than a year before it has to make any hard decisions about a potential sequel to The Flash. Warner Brothers also has avoided making any key decisions on tentpoles ahead of Discovery taking control of Warner Media in a $43 billion mega merger. Warner Media chief Ann Sarnoff announced on Tuesday that she is exiting the company. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Blah, blah, blah. See, some of this stuff mixes in crap that I didn't really care about. So, more on Miller. It says, one insider says Miller had, quote, frequent meltdowns, end quote, during production last year on The Flash. While the insider stresses there was no yelling or violent outbursts, they described Miller as, quote, losing it. Ezra would get a thought in their head and say, I don't know what I'm doing. End quote, the insider tells Rolling Stone. Then it goes over the police report. And there's something that I missed. I actually missed one piece of this, the police report, when I talked about it like last week or 2 weeks ago. He actually threatened two people. I think he was renting a house or something like that. But then this clown like kicked in their bedroom door and their home and said he was going to bury them. And it just, this dude's, he's unhinged. Something's wrong with this guy. Let's see here. There was something else I was reading on here. Where was it? Oh man, I can't remember what it was now. I know it. So this is what he said and so even more troubling, a local couple filed a temporary restraining order against Miller on March 29th. The couple claimed that after Miller's arrest, Miller burst into their bedroom and threatened them, with Miller saying to the man, quote, I will bury you and your slut wife, end quote. This is crazy. I mean, this guy, he's just, something's wrong with this cat. And, to me, it always bothers me when certain people get the pass, and he's one of them. Now, it's kind of nice to see that Warner Brothers is actually taking this into account, because it wasn't but a couple of years ago when Amber Heard came out, made a bunch of statements, and before any investigation was taken, before any sort of police report was taken, or anything serious where there was an actual evidence to be allocated and assessed, and then, let's decide, like, is this guy guilty or not? Warner Brothers dumped Johnny Depp because Amber Heard came out and said that she was being abused by this guy physically. And everybody was on the train. Oh, he's trash. This guy's evil. Get him off, and everyone was fucking applauding and clapping up. Oh my God, good. Believe all women shit. And it was just like right at the height of that sort of Me Too movement. And come to find out, she's fucking lying. There are witnesses that say she's making this shit up. And there's been audio that's been released between Johnny and Herb, which I've listened to. So, and he's not like, he's still off the show. He's still not getting he's supposed to be in this film. This Dumbledore movie was supposed to be him, and he got dumped because someone lied about it. And this guy, this Ezra Miller fucker, he assaults a woman on camera, he chokeslams a girl to the ground. He attacks people, threatens people. He attacks people. He breaks into a home and threatens them. He's harassing people in public. He's drunk, and it's okay. Like, everything's fine. The movie's still coming out, and the whole woman thing, he choked this woman before The Flash, before that even happened, but no one wanted to do anything about it. And like I said, go read his bio, and you'll see why. It's fucking rules for thee and not for me, and it's selective justice, and I think it's bullshit. So this guy, I hope they do pause this motherfucker like indefinitely, because he doesn't deserve to be applauded and cheered for the shit that he's doing. He just doesn't. I think he's an idiot. All right, so let's move along here. So, Stranger Things season 4 trailer. I recommend checking this one out. I'm personally, so Stranger Things season 1 to me is sort of lightning in a bottle. The show was so well paced, and the acting was really good acting, especially for kid actors. Kid actors to me are always, it's 50-50. You can get total shit actors or you can get really good ones. And season 1 was an example of really good child actors. They were great. And also, as someone who grew up in the 80s, there was a lot of things in that season 1 that I was like, oh my God, I remember that. I was kind of living that life when I was a kid, riding your bikes with your friends and that type of shit. And it was cool. Season 2 came out, and I didn't really think season 2 was terrible, but season 2 to me wasn't near as good. And then season 3 came out, and I remember when I started watching season 3, it started really strong, and then to me it just fell apart. Just there were so many things that I just could not. It was just stupid. There was things that were really dumb, and there was modern agenda shit that was thrown there on top of it all. So I personally didn't like season 3, and I didn't creatively. I thought some of the choices that they were making in terms of just the story, I thought were okay. But what I'm seeing now in this season 4 trailer, I don't like it. That it's gone from this very confined sort of, I won't say it was kind of a horror show, but it was like like a horror series, but it was also like suspense and sci-fi and thriller and and also had some very good comedic moments. Now watching this trailer, it looks like a complete departure. Like we are now living in a different. It looks to me, it looks like a really big production. Lots of CGI, lots of the I forgot what it was called, like the Underworld or whatever it was called. We're seeing there's a lot of shots of the Underworld. We now have the face of a big baddie, which the Underworld antagonist was definitely, oh, what's the word? They were sort of intimated that there was a singular villain in the Underworld, and we sort of got a little bit more of that in season 2 and season 3, but now we actually see a face. We see a person or whatever, a beast or a monster or whatever, in the form of, like a very humanoid looking monster. And to me, it just, I don't know. It didn't do much for me. Aside from the song, which was a great song that they chose for the trailer, I just didn't think it was that great. And I'm not looking forward to it. I think the show has gotten progressively worse, and I was hoping that they were going to sort of rein it back in and get back to what made it so good and clever in season 1. And I think it's the final season, because the way the trailer was, they even splashed some words across as the trailer was playing. It was something along the lines of like an ending, like every show has an ending, or every journey has an ending, or some shit like that. So, but I don't know. If you love Stranger Things, I suggest check out the trailer, see for yourself. I personally didn't think it didn't do anything for me, but maybe it's exactly what you want. So, and if it is, hey, good, that's awesome. Okay, moving along. So this one, I'm only bringing this up because of some of the content. This is Thandie Newton. She's allegedly fired from the set of, or the movie Magic Mike 3. And let me see here. What was that? That was right, a New York Post article. So I don't have a dog in this fight, to be honest with you. This was a New York Post article. Thandie Newton denies being fired from Magic Mike over Channing Tatum fight. So Magic Mike, I've seen pieces of the very first one. I know it's a big winner for the ladies. It's a bunch of hot guys dancing around. I know Channing is, he's a big heartthrob for women. I get it. I actually think he's a pretty decent actor. But for whatever reason, they got a sequel, and now they're working on part 3, so it's a trilogy now. So hey, good for them. But I guess Thandie Newton, who you might know her from, let's see, she was in Westworld, which she was great in season 1. Season 2 and 3, Westworld was shit. What was it? The one that I know her from the most, like, is an older movie, and that was Mission Impossible 2, and she was the love interest of Tom Cruise or Ethan Hunt character. And man, back then especially, she was beautiful. She's a very beautiful woman, and especially back then, she was banging. But I don't think she's the greatest actress. I think her acting is kind of limited. She plays a lot of the same characters, a lot of the same looks. She was also in a movie called Chronicles of Riddick, which it was a total flop. It was a sequel to Pitch Black with Vin Diesel. And it's funny, I was just watching this a couple days ago because it was on TV. I love cheesy sci-fi movies. I love them. I love B movies and cult classics. So to me, Chronicles of Riddick is a good movie. But I understand I'm in a very small group of people who might think that's a good movie. But she's in that movie as well. But according to this article, I'm going to read some of this. There was some pretty good information here, some good quotes. So she's saying that she left the set for family issues, but there are witnesses who say otherwise. So it says actress Thandie Newton has denied reports that she was fired from Magic Mike's Last Dance after getting in a heated spat with Channing Tatum over Will Smith's infamous hitch slap. Cheesy line there, New York Post. You can do better. That's why I really wanted to talk about this, because it involves what I talked about 2 weeks ago. The slap heard around the world. I thought it was interesting that if this is true, like they got into a fucking argument over it, and I'm just curious who was on whose side. I'm just wondering. It says, quote, "The report is completely inaccurate," end quote. A spokeswoman or spokesperson for the 49-year-old crash star said in a statement. Meanwhile, a representative for Warner Brothers said that Newton, who left the London set after 11 days, had reportedly departed on her own volition to deal with family matters, end quote. The bombshell went against a prior report by The Sun, which stated that the Emmy winner had been canned from The Last Dance following an unimaginably vicious tiff with Tatum, 41. The two had reportedly fallen out while discussing the viral incident last month in which Will Smith slapped Chris Rock over a bald crack about his wife Jada Pinkett Smith, who suffers from alopecia. It says the argument allegedly culminated in Tatum, who is also a producer on the film, driving Offset in his car, per The Sun. Quote, "They fell out over the debacle at the Oscars," end quote, a crew member had claimed. Quote, "I was on set, I watched her and watched him. They were in and out of the house where they were filming having this confrontation," end quote. The purported witness alleged that Tatum had said, quote, "I'm not working with her anymore. Being a producer, it's his movie." I'm sorry, end quote, that's what he said. Adding that, being a producer, it's his movie, so she's off the movie, end quote. And then it says the source had summed it up like this, quote, "Channing Tatum is the producer and number 1 on set. Thandie Newton is the number 2 star, but 11 days into shooting and it's all over." So I think this is kind of funny. I mean, and it says here, I'm sorry, Newton has since been replaced by Salma Hayek, age 55, who will have to reshoot all the scenes that had involved the original actress. I thought it was funny. I mean, it's like Will Smith's just affecting everybody. Like he fucking he assaults a guy in front of everybody. And, I've seen all kinds of shit. Now it's like I saw a couple of shorts on YouTube where some guy attacks a comedian for talking shit to him. Like the crowd's getting rowdy and he starts roasting the crowd, and this guy starts coming at him like verbally, and this comic just shuts him down, and then this dude comes up and attacks him on stage. This incident, and unfortunately for Will Smith, for him, I don't give two shits about the guy, but that slap is going to be what he's remembered for. That's his legacy from now on. Assaulting somebody because they made a joke about your wife. An innocent joke, in my opinion. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. And I would love to have heard that argument. I wish there'd be some leaked audio, of them two arguing. Because what the fuck? Why is it worth arguing over so bad that you're willing to either leave a movie or get fired from one, or actually fire a person. It's like, man, Jesus, what happened to discourse, people? All right, still moving along here. So this one really pisses me off. I forgot the name of the movie. I know it. I like I said, I don't know Harry Potter, and let me see. I forget the name of it. What is it called? Oh yeah, it's called Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. Like I said, I'm not a Harry Potter guy, so I just don't know. However, this article is also from the Post, New York Post, by Ariel Zilber. Sorry if I didn't give credit to the last person. It wasn't intentional. I just forget sometimes. But it says Warner Brothers bows to China demand to censor gay quote Harry Potter line. I'm sorry, that's not a quote. Sorry. To eliminate this gay line apparently that was in the movie. And it's very short. It's like 6 seconds of an actual scene. But it says Warner Brothers said it has removed references to a gay relationship between two protagonists in the upcoming China release of the Harry Potter. Why am I struggling with this word? I did it last time. Harry Potter prequel. Harry Potter. Man, oh boy. The Hollywood studio confirmed that it has expunged details of the romance between Jude Law's character Albus Dumbledore and Gellert Grindelwald, played by Mads Mikkelsen, who I really like. He's a good actor, in Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. The edit, which was first reported by The Hollywood Reporter, takes out 6 seconds of the film in which Dumbledore utters the lines, quote, "I was in love with you," end quote, and quote, "the summer Gellert and I fell in love," end quote. Here we go. Quote, "As a studio, we're committed to safeguarding the integrity of every film we release, and that extends to circumstances that necessitate making nuanced cuts in order to respond sensitively to a variety of in-market factors," a Warner Brothers spokesperson told THR. Quote, "Our hope is to release our features worldwide as released by their creators, but historically we have faced small edits made in local markets," end quote. The spokesperson added, quote, "In the case of Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, a second cut was requested and Warner Brothers accepted those changes to comply with local requirements, but the spirit of the film remains intact," end quote. Quote, "We want audiences everywhere in the world to see and enjoy this film, and it's important to us that Chinese audiences have the opportunity to experience it as well, even with these minor edits," end quote. So this is fucking par for the course. And if you're a fan of Harry Potter, or you're a fan of Disney, or any other corporation for that matter, I can only say the obvious, and that is these corporations don't give a shit about these social justice issues. They don't care. They really do not fucking care. All they care about is that money, that feria. That's all they give a shit about. And this right here is just another example of a corporation, $1 billion, $1 trillion, I don't know how much Warner Brothers worth, but it's billions of dollars, I'm sure, $1 billion company bending the knee to another country because of their opinion on, being gay. It's been well documented, and there's plenty of information that says that they're not down with the gay community at all. The LGBTQ plus, the alphabet, whole thing, they're not down with it. And I think that it's so funny because so often nowadays, people who are quote, progressive and all this other stuff, they defend corporations. And it's the weirdest thing. I grew up in the 80s, and back then, like, modern liberals were like anti-corporation, and, freedom of speech and that type of shit. And it's so weird because it's like this, we're in the Twilight Zone now, where people actually defend Disney. People actually defend Warner Brothers. They defend it, and they say, and they do it because these big corporations stand, out in front of a microphone or at a podium spouting off these fucking bullet points about how tolerant and special they are. They go on Twitter and they post all these, all these things about we support this group, we support that movement, equality and all this shit, all the regular talking points. And then this shit happens and no one says anything. No one talks about it. No one calls these fuckers out. And they should. They absolutely should. They're editing out a scene, and it's not even salacious. It's a very simple scene. And when I was reading this article, there's another line here where they were talking about how J.K. Rowling's, like, back in the day, like years and years ago, she had confirmed that Dumbledore was gay, and that what's the other guy's name? Forgot his name. Anyways, that there was these two characters were in fact in a relationship. I don't know anything about it, so I'm not saying like, yep, that's true. When I was reading it, they were saying that she had already confirmed that years ago. This was the first time that was actually spoken in film, and they edited that shit out. A very little tiny piece of shit. And some people might be like, what's the big deal? It's like, well, it is a big deal. Like, you're defending this bullshit. This is a corporation who fucking lies. They're worth billions of dollars, but they're gonna sing and dance for whoever's, just to look good, to whoever's gonna, whatever social issues going on. They jump out. They're always so quick to jump out in front of them and say, oh, they want to be on the right side of history, and then they pull shit like this. Disney's done it fucking so many times. I talked about the John Boyega poster. These are some grimy ass corporations, and I just get tired of it. It's so fucking annoying. It's just one more example of these corporations. They don't care about your social issues or mine. They don't care about any sort of movement. All they give a fuck about is money. And it's never going to change until we take away the money, until we stop buying the shit. And I'm not telling you protest them, boycott them, and all this other shit. That's your choice. But you vote with your wallet, and I think that's the best thing you can do. And that's what I do. But this is just one of those things. Just annoys me. And I wish people would focus on this a little bit more, and I wish that all the media who kowtows to this bullshit and they prop up corporations and say how great they are, but then when shit like this happens, they should be front and center. They should be the ones, if they're really about telling the news, this shit should be splashed across the news and calling them out. But they're not going to. They're all in lockstep, which is never a good sign. But that's the end of the movie stuff. Really, not a whole lot going on. We're going to transition over to some gaming news here. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm playing right now. Let me get a sip of coffee here. I'm actually really tired today. For some reason on the weekends, I don't know why. On weekdays, when I wake up, my alarm goes off and I'm really, really trying to not hit the snooze button. I'm trying to get up, start working out, get on the treadmill, start lifting, do whatever my workout is that day. And it's going okay. But on the weekends, for whatever reason, Saturday and Sunday, and even on if I have a day off or something, my body just wakes up like an hour before my alarm goes off. And it's so annoying. It happened to me Saturday morning. It happened to me this morning where I just woke up, and I'd only had about 6 hours of sleep. And I'm not one of those people who can function off 6 hours. I need to get 7+ hours of sleep a night. If I don't, I'm spacey. I have trouble concentrating. I drift around. I can't listen as well as I normally do. And it sucks. So, but I slept my alarm went off an hour earlier. And so I got up and I lay back down and I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to sleep. And if I can sleep, I'm going to try to lay in bed for another hour. I knocked right out. And then when my alarm went off an hour later, I was so fucking tired. It was just, I hate that. So anywho, let's get into some gaming here. I actually picked up the Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, which not necessarily agree with that title because Rey is not a Skywalker. She never will be a Skywalker, no matter how much she says, Rey Skywalker. No, you're not. You're not a Skywalker. You're a Palpatine. Disney's bullshit. Ugh, it's so stupid. The whole Disney trilogy is just trash. But when this game was announced and when it came out, I had no intention because, like I said, I vote with my wallet. I don't pay for Disney's crap. However, it was revealed that during the filming of the Disney trilogy, one of the things that a lot of fans like myself were wondering is why isn't the old gang together on scene at the same time? Like why aren't we seeing Han, Luke, Leia, C-3PO, Chewie, R2D2? Why aren't we seeing them all together? What's going on? Well, when Disney bought Lucasfilms back, I don't know how many years ago, it was a long time ago. They bought them for like $3 billion or something like that, which was crazy money back then. Crazy. It was earth shattering. Nowadays that ain't shit. But when they bought them, obviously they own the IP and so on and so forth. Well, when the movie started coming out, it was revealed that they owe George Lucas royalties for any of the original characters. And that's why they did their damnedest to keep them off the screen together and to kill them off. Like, that's really the reason why they wanted these characters gone. Disney's they suck. The movies are shit. I don't really have any interest in them. I still think that The Force Awakens is kind of a fun movie, and there are parts of it that I do like, but there's too much that I don't like about it. The Last Jedi I thought was just bad all the way from front to back, and I never watched the third movie. But this game, you can play all 9 of the movies. And if you're not familiar with the Lego games at all, they like Indiana Jones, or they've done Star Wars games prior to this, Batman or whatever. When they do them, you typically play along to the films, like scene by scene, but it's like total like satire, comedic. They'll have the iconic scenes, the iconic music, but in the moments, but they'll always put some sort of goofy spin on it, and it's charming. It's a really clever idea, and I always appreciated Lego games. This one though, once I knew that it was going to be all of the original stuff, like the prequels and the OG trilogy, then I was like, I can justify it, because if it's going to stick it to Disney and force them to give some money to George Lucas, I'm all for it. So that was the justification for me, because when I saw this, I'm like, nope, sorry, I'm not buying this game. And because when they said Skywalker Saga, in my mind, I was thinking, because they shoehorned Rey into this sort of, she's a Skywalker all of a sudden just because she says it. Like, it's one of those things where she says she's a Skywalker, so she is. That's not how it works. You don't just get to choose, oh no, I'm not a Palpatine anymore. I'm a Skywalker because I want to be. That's not how it works. I really thought that this was going to be about Rey, and then when I realized it was about all of the all 9 movies, I'm like, cool. So far, I am loving this game. This is a really good Lego game. Really, really good. I think it's one of the best looking ones. I think it's, in terms of like puzzles and just the world that, each scene. Right now I started off with A New Hope, and I'm, in the midway, I think I'm around the midway point now. Actually, no, I'm actually right around the third act. But the presentation is just great. And no matter how much I don't like Disney owning the IP, that OG music still gets me. It's to this day. As soon as I hear the original music, it just gets me every time. And I watch the original movies. As soon as I hear that music, I'm like, I'm in. I love it. You got me. So I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a really good game. A lot of fun. If you like the Lego games, you'll love this one. And it's huge. I mean, I can't even fathom how big this game is, because I'm only playing, I'm in the middle, halfway through the first movie, and I still have quite a bit to go. And then I still have Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Then I have all 3 of the prequels, Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones. What was the first one? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. I can see the damn cover of the movie, because I had the VHS and I had the Blu-ray or the DVD back in the day. Phantom Menace. There you go. But I still have them all to play, and I can't wait. But I will not be playing the original. I will not be playing the new crap. I'm not going to do it. But that's the greatness of this. That I think is so special about this game, is like, I can play the stuff that I want to play, and I don't have to play the other shit, which is awesome. So cool. So I recommend it. All right, so let's move along to the first bits of news here. So Need for Speed is coming this November. This was on, I saw this on Racing Games. Is that where I found that one? Where was that one? Yeah, this was on racinggames.gg. I don't really know this publication that well, or this website. I was just looking it up, and this one seemed like it was. I liked the article. I read this article. It's by George Howson. It says Need for Speed 2022, everything you need to know. Will we be getting a Need for Speed game next year? But what's known about EA's upcoming racer so far? So I'm sorry, it says we will, not will we. So it talks a little bit about, Need for Speed's been around for a long time. But then here, so and it's broken down. This article is broken into like sections here. So it says latest news: photorealistic graphics mixed with anime elements. I'm not sure about that shit. It says, if the latest rumors are to be believed, Need for Speed will adopt a new art style. According to VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb, Criterion's new Need for Speed will feature, quote, photorealistic graphics mixed with anime elements, end quote. Quote, it's going to be photorealistic, but it's going to have on top of that anime elements. You know when you see a car commercial or something like that and the car's driving around, but then cartoons, flames, and stuff are flying off it? That's the kind of aesthetic that they seem to be going for. I am not hype on that. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't. Need for Speed is, if you don't know, it's a racing game, but it's all about like street racing, and you get to drive exotic cars, and and then they introduced Hot Pursuit back. I don't know, it was back in the day. I mean, I was playing Hot Pursuit like a long time ago, back in the '90s on my PC, and they introduced the cops, and you start running from the cops while racing other cars. It's always been a really good game. I've been a fan of it for decades. I kind of fell off there for a minute just because I really wasn't playing racing games in general, but they were still churning these, and they've been churning these out for a while. I just don't like the idea that they're going to make it anime on top of, or cartoon graphics set in a photorealistic world. That's I mean, I don't know. I have to see it. I don't want to say it's going to be shit, but it just doesn't do anything for me. So then location is a fictionalized Chicago setting, rumored. While the Need for Speed 2022 location hasn't been officially announced, VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb claims the new Need for Speed is set in a new location called Lakeshore City. In contrast to Need for Speed's Heat's Miami-inspired Palm City, Lakeshore City will reportedly be a fictionalized version of Chicago. That's cool. I mean, I don't really know much about Chicago's layout. I just know that, a lot of movies get filmed there, and it's a big city, the Windy Cities, so, but I don't know, like, when I hear Miami, and when I heard that Need for Speed Heat was going to be in Miami, my mind, I could paint a picture of what I was going to see. I knew, like, okay, I played so many games that are located in, like, these, like Miami, or cities, like, are themed after Miami. I knew what I was getting into, but with this one, I'm like, what does that mean? Like, if it's Chicago, what does that mean? Like, is this a lot of skyscrapers? And I don't know. So I don't know. I'm not sold on that either, but I have faith. I think that they're going to be able to pull it off in whatever city or location that they're going to put the game in. I think it will be fine. But this one, to me, I was just like, it just doesn't, I don't know. Chicago just doesn't have that ring to it. So, current gen only. According to VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb, Criterion's new Need for Speed game will be current gen only. This is still a rumor for now, but if it's true, it means the Need for Speed 2022 game will skip PS4 and Xbox One. Instead, it will release on PS5 and Xbox One consoles as well as PC. It's so funny because they have to say Xbox One, and then they have to say Xbox One again. I'm going to read that again. The Need for Speed 2022 game will skip PS4 and Xbox One. Instead, it will release on PS5 and Xbox One consoles as well as PC. Way to go on the naming convention there, Xbox. So that still annoys me. I think that's a good sign to me, having the game on current gen consoles only. It's time. I think it's time to start, regardless of the chip shortage and all that bullshit. We need to start seeing games that are built and made for, there's my dog again, built and made for current gen consoles. And the thing that I wish studios and development teams would do more is make your games, build them for the current console, then do a release 3 months, 6 months later on previous consoles, because there's money to be made there. There's millions and millions of previous consoles, previous gen consoles, I should say, that you can rake in the money, but build the game for the latest hardware so that you can get everything out of it. And the hardware from PS4 and Xbox One to PS5 and Xbox One is it's more in line with like a PC, where it's just a stronger hardware. It's not so much where it's like a Nintendo game where they're always changing their shit up, like the engines and the way the development develop them. And then like PS3 versus PS4, which I've talked about before. I think that this is perfect. Just make all your games for current gen consoles, make them look fucking fantastic, have all the bells and whistles, and push the technology, push the hardware to its max, and then you can always re-release it or drop it later, like a year later on the previous console, and it would still be a hit. It would be like another wave of revenue that would come through. So yeah, I don't really think this is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Excuse me. It says here, Criterion is back on board. EA had tasked Ghost Games with the last 4 Need for Speed console releases. Now, though, they've been let go. As EA looks to the past to make a better future for Need for Speed, Criterion has developed several Need for Speed titles before, including the fantastic Hot Pursuit from 2010. Hot Pursuit is a game that has stood the test of time and is still fun to play a decade later thanks to the remaster last year. Criterion has developed Most Wanted in 2012, but it's the Burnout series where they really shined. So, excuse me. So bringing Criterion back, I think that's a good thing too. They're a great studio. I still think that Need for Speed Heat was a great game. I think it was really good. Love that game. But this is exciting. I like the Need for Speed games. I like racing games, and I'm kind of getting back into that now. So this is good news. Let's see here. Let's move along. Let's see. Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer dropped. This one didn't do anything for me. I know that Kingdom Hearts has a huge following. It's a very large franchise. I understand that, but I've never played one of those games. But I've watched trailers and I've watched people play them. They don't do anything for me. So just so you know, like if you don't know, Kingdom Hearts is someone. So I worked with this kid, and he was a kid. He was like 19 years old, a few years ago, and he was talking about Kingdom Hearts. He was a gamer, and he found out that I was a gamer because I'm an older guy. He's like, "Oh man, you game too?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm from the 80s, man. I've been gaming all my life." And so he starts talking about Kingdom Hearts. Oh, Kingdom Hearts. And back then it was like Kingdom Hearts 3. It was like a re-release or some kind, but he was just bugging out over it. He was so excited, and he was like, "Are you going to get it?" And I said, "No, I don't know anything about it. It's never done anything for me." But he described it like, I was like, "What's so special about it?" And he's like, "Dude, you get to fight, you get to save the world, and you go through all these different levels, and all the levels, they sort of change up how you play them, and you're fighting alongside Disney characters, like famous Disney characters like Daffy Duck and, Mickey Mouse and that type of stuff." And I was like, "Oh, okay. That sounds okay. I get it. It sounds pretty cool, but I'm not a huge Disney person, so I don't really give a shit." And when I saw gameplay, I was like, okay, it looks all right. I mean, I understand there's probably Kingdom Hearts fans, and of year one for this is probably like, oh my God, finally a Kingdom Hearts 4. But it didn't do anything for me. I thought the trailer was, the one thing I didn't like about the trailer was it looked very real, like a realistic art, like it was very photorealistic. And then the characters are interacting, and they look like total anime characters in a real world. I think that might be an actual design choice, but to me, it just looked weird. I was like, wait, what, are we in a real world or not? And it looked like, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first time where it is going to be set in a real world. So maybe that's something that's super enticing, but yeah, it just didn't do anything for me. But it's coming out. That's great news for people who like it. All right, moving on to the next one here. So Undead Labs. So this is another workplace environment problem. Where was I at on that one? Here we go. So this one was on gamesindustry.biz. This one was written by Jeffrey Russo. So Undead Labs employees accuse studio of misogyny, mismanagement. Allegations against the State of Decay maker include that its former head of HR also enabled a harmful studio culture. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I want to pull, there's a couple of quotes in here. I think you should go read this. This is a pretty decent article. But in a nutshell, essentially, this was an expose done by Kotaku. And they interviewed 12 former and current employees from Undead Labs. Undead Labs made their name from a game called State of Decay. It came out a minute ago. They've already done State of Decay 2, and I believe they're working on State of Decay 3 right now. It was on Xbox only. It's an Xbox exclusive. And then Microsoft bought them. And I thought the game looked cool. Even the fans of Xbox said it was janky, but the systems and the gameplay loop was sound, and it looked really cool. Like even though it didn't look that great but when I watched like playthroughs and shit, I thought it was I was like, man, I want to play that game. It looks pretty cool, but it wasn't like, it just didn't have the shine. It didn't have, you can tell that they were an upcoming studio at the time. I think that they, stepped it up in part 2 in a lot of ways, but it was a terrible mess technically. It looked better. The systems sounded like they were a lot better. They had polished a lot of things, but for whatever reason, technically that game was a total mess and it did not do well critically. So having said that, they were bought by Microsoft years ago. There's some stuff in here, and I read through. Now the Kotaku article I was reading through, it started getting wordy, and they use terms, and you can tell their political standpoint on the situation by the way they write. I'm just not a huge fan of Kotaku, but they still do some article, or they still do some reporting on things like this, which is good. Investigative reporting is a good thing, and I think we should applaud it when it actually happens. But I just don't like the spin. I don't like the opinion on top of the investigative reporting. I think media really needs to get back to that. Like, just no matter whose feelings are hurt or who doesn't like it or whatever side of the aisle that it falls on, just report the fucking news. But getting back to this article, they're just sort of referencing the Kotaku article, and it's a little bit easier of a read, and they just sort of pull excerpts from that article into this one. But there were some things on here that I thought were it sounds like there was some shit going on, but here's the problem that I have. When you're talking about former employees, that to me, most people who leave their job to go on to the next job, they typically don't look back on the job that they were previously at and say, man, that fucking place was awesome. I loved it so much. Because if it was so awesome, they would still be working there. They left for a reason. I'm not saying that they left and this was a lie, that none of this actually happened and now they're just, disgruntled employees, but it's possible. We have to take it into account that maybe they were let go because they fucking sucked at their job. Maybe they were lazy. Maybe they didn't get along with people. Maybe they were a pain in the ass to work with. Maybe they didn't do their job. Or maybe it was a shitty place to work and they wanted to leave. So that's why it's kind of hard for me to just say like, oh, yep, these are all these things are true, because there's quite a few quotes in here, things that they were talking about. They're talking about the HR woman, the head of HR, and how she allowed, like, some guy was being misogynist and he was making some sexual inappropriate jokes and comments, and then someone told HR and HR didn't do anything about it. So I don't know. It's this one to me, just based on, it's like the sources to me aren't really like selling me on a whole lot. There has to be an investigation, obviously. Like I said before, people make allegations, they say shit. It doesn't mean it's fucking true. And people need to stop that. People need to stop listening to someone, just because they work somewhere and then they say something happened, all of a sudden it's like, well, it must be true because they fucking work there. It's like, well, you don't know that. You don't know the whole story. Like, there's two sides to every story. And I'm going to wait a little bit more before I really get into this one, but I think it's worth a read. I think you should check it out. I do say this, it doesn't look good for Microsoft because, as I said before, they have troubles with their studios. And, Phil Spencer has come out and said that, he's been championing like the better work environment and, protecting employees and, he's, putting out these sort of, these sort of hostile work environment. He has said he wants to put an end to it, right? But this shit's been going on. If this is true, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying if it is true, it's like this doesn't look good for Phil. It doesn't look good for Microsoft, and it's just one more studio that's under their umbrella. And then and on top of that, they buy Activision, and Activision Blizzard, and they're under major scrutiny for way like the same things, but obviously a much higher level. There was some major shit that went on there allegedly, and when your company, when you're the head of a company or you're the head of a division in your company, and you're saying, we don't tolerate this, we don't put up with this, we're anti this, we're anti that, and then two of the companies, like one company that has been under your umbrella is going through these problems or allegedly going through these problems, and then a company that you're purchasing a very large purchase, and they're embroiled in a major lawsuit right now for the same exact shit. It just doesn't look good. It's just optics. Optically, it doesn't look good for Xbox or Phil Spencer. But I know it is what it is. We'll see what happens. We'll see what comes out of it. Like I said, I'm not putting too much stock in it, but it doesn't look good. So let's move along here. The next one's just Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo 7. They came out with a new patch 1.11 that has some fixes. That was a Push Square article. I'm not going to read the details of this one because it's a lot of fucking jargon. So Gran Turismo 7 patch 1.1. Let me restart this, okay? Gran Turismo 7 patch 1.11 available now, increases rewards and credit cap. Then there's a total breakdown on Push Square. This was written by Stefan Talby, and it's a good breakdown, decent article. There was some good shit in here. They boosted the rewards. They increased the overall credit limit, the amount that you can actually have, so that you can save up for bigger cars to 100 million. They changed the rewards and they boosted the rewards for the races. They added a new event. What was it called? The Human Comedy. That's a 1-hour endurance race, and you can get some big bang from it. Each endurance race event will award up to 1.2 million credits per event. So it's good. It's good shit. And I think it's important that when companies, when they go and they correct the things that they fuck up, and they listen to the fans and they listen to the community, I think they should be applauded for that. And that's across the board. You look at when you look at like Hello Games with No Man's Sky. That was it wasn't a flop in terms of what the game was. It was a flop in terms of what they said it was, and then to when it actually came out, that game wasn't what they had promised in a lot of ways. They put their nose down and they were grinding for the past few years to make No Man's Sky what it is today. I think that's a good thing, and I think that Hello Games should get applause for that. The thing that with this one, with Gran Turismo and Polyphonies, the studio, they're making these corrections on the fly. They're listening to the community. We should take note of that, and we support that. And it's funny because I read comments, and I was reading watching the YouTube videos on it, and people were still in the comments like, "Oh, too fucking late," they're still a shitty company, and look at these guys scrambling to fix it, and just tells you how bad they are and how they don't care. And it's like, you complain when you don't get what you want, then you get what you want, and then you complain. It's like, shut the fuck up. Some people just will never be happy, and that's okay. I try to avoid them, but I think it's a good thing. But now, whether or not is it too late, that's a very valid point. That's a real question, because first impressions are very important, and I believe in first impressions. I believe that you got to put your best foot forward first, and then everything else after that you can monitor and correct if you fuck up. But they came out and the game had its issues mechanically, and I'm sorry, like not mechanically, like rewards and that type of thing. But then they changed it. They even changed and made the rewards worse, and then the in-game store and all that shit. So, you know, it doesn't look good, and it didn't look good, and no one can deny that. But the game was still great. I still think the game is a great racing simulation. So, you know, whether or not this is gonna get them to, you know, sell more copies, I think regardless, Gran Turismo is such a staple in the gaming and racing industry or racing genre that it's gonna sell no matter what. You know, I think this game, you know, it will surpass a few million copies sold. I think it will be right up there with some of the best-selling games over time. But you always got to wonder just how much did it really hurt this game that they fucked it up the way they did. So, all right, moving along. Speaking of money and Sony, so they dropped $1 billion on Epic Games. This was over on Video Games Chronicle. Let's see here. Boop-a-doo. Where were we here? What did I do with that article? Here we go. So Sony makes $1 billion investment in Epic Games to deepen relationship in the metaverse field. This is posted by Tom Ivan. Fortnite maker valued at $31.5 billion following latest funding round. So, I think I read that wrong. Anyways, so it says Sony has invested an additional $1 billion in Epic Games, which announced the completion of a $2 billion funding round on Monday. The PlayStation maker already had a minority stake in Epic, having invested $450 million in the Fortnite and Unreal Engine maker since July 2020. Let's see here. There was another Lego? Yeah, Lego. Here we go. Kirkby, the holding and investment company behind the Lego Group, also invested $1 billion in Epic in the latest funding round, which is designed to accelerate the company's ambitions in the metaverse space. Let's see. While there's no universally accepted definition, the metaverse is a network of 3D virtual spaces where users can socialize, play, and work, and some envision it as a successor to the mobile internet. Quote, as a creative entertainment company, we are thrilled to invest in Epic to deepen our relationship in the metaverse field, a space where creators and users share their time, end quote, said Sony CEO Kenichiro Yoshida. I think it's Kenichiro. Sorry, I'm bad. I'm not the best reader. I apologize. Quote, we are also confident that Epic's expertise, including their powerful game engine combined with Sony's technologies, will accelerate our various efforts, such as the development of new digital fan experiences in sports and our virtual production initiatives. So to me, this is, this is great for Epic. Epic's a really rich company as it is, but they created the Unreal Engine, and I've talked about it before here. Like CD Projekt Red, they're using they switched from the Red Engine to the Unreal Engine. So this is the makers of that, Epic Games or Epic Studios, or whatever you want to call them. So they make money when anytime anybody or any developer uses their engine to make their game, they get a cut. They get a cut of every copy sold. Like a percentage is divvied out just for them. The thing about Epic is not only are they the makers of Fortnite, which is like, this world phenomenon. Even normies know what that is. They have a store called the Epic Store, which is like Steam or kind of like an Apple Store. So they have openly said this. They are losing money just on their store alone, their Epic Store, and they sell games on their Epic Store, and it's like a membership, I think, or a subscription, and then you get access to these games. My understanding is that they are bleeding money, but they're doing it intentionally they're trying to build their store up so they become like another Netflix type place where you go to get your games, like Steam. And the thing is they're like, just Fortnite alone, they're making billions of dollars because it's such a social iconic thing now that, where you have like artists, like rappers and shit, like dropping music on there. You have so many different IP, like Marvel, making Marvel characters for the game so that characters can play. I mean, this is all money. Like, they're just making money out the ass. Sony stepping in and Lego stepping in, throwing their $1 billion hats in the ring. I think this is Sony had talked about doing or wanting to get into games of service. Like they haven't cornered the market on the single player experience, but they've carved out a home in single player games, specifically like third person action open world games. They know how to make them. Their studios know how to make those, and they've succeeded very well in that sort of that niche. Now they really want to get into multiplayer games of service. That's fine. Whether or not this pans out for them, I think it's all about what sort of games they want to hitch their wagons to. Naughty Dog, who made the Last of Us and the Uncharted games, they're working on a multiplayer only game right now. It's sort of hush hush. We don't know any details about it, but again, it's a multiplayer only game. I think that Sony, on top of the push for like movies and productions and stuff, I think this is also like another branch. The sort of metaverse to me is like it's like another tier that they want to get involved in. I don't know if that's going to pan out because, multiplayer games and TV shows and movies and stuff, those are established areas already. They're already known in the gaming and filming industry. Everyone understands it. When you're talking about like a metaverse, like this fucking Facebook type shit, I think this is a gamble, and I just don't know if it's going to pay off for them. I just don't know. It's kind of like virtual reality. When VR came out, there was a lot of good reporting on it. I should say positive reporting, like a lot of positive feedback from, reporting saying that these experiences were really great and unique and so on and so forth. I never really had any interest in virtual reality, and I don't have it today. To me, it's a gimmick. To me, it's sort of like a boutique item, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's cool, and sure, if I got a good deal on the PSVR 2, I think is what it's called, that's coming out. I don't know if I'm going to buy one. I might. Maybe there's enough games there and quote experiences to enjoy, and playing first person as like Superman or something like that, or some sort of fun game. I think that's okay, but to me it's still sort of gimmicky. The metaverse is the same to me. I see it as the same thing. It's new territory that hasn't been solidified yet in the market, and there's no reason for me to think that this metaverse is going to take off. It's going to be the next fucking thing. It reminds me of the movie Ready Player One, which was a movie that was based off a book. And the movie, even though you may not like the movie, I thought the movie was okay. It was kind of fun. Lots and lots of fucking money was paid for all the IP. There's so many like iconic characters from movies and video games and and TV shows I thought was great. But the idea behind Ready Player One, this sort of virtual space that you can go and spend all your time and invest real money and change your character to basically live out this sort of fantasy life in an alternate reality. It sounds cool, like science fiction, and it looks kind of neat, but is it really going to take off, and is it really going to be a thing? It could, but I mean, I don't know. Virtual reality was like the shit. Like when it started showing up at like E3, and there was these different sort of makers like Oculus and then PlayStation, and there's a few different major companies that were making these new headsets that were groundbreaking at the time. To me, even then, like even as people were really trying to push it and say like this is the new, it still hasn't hit yet. We're not playing video games in VR right now. Like that's not a thing. That's not like, oh cool, I don't play a game without my VR headset. No, it still hasn't caught on. And it's been years. It's been quite a few years since VR really came into the fold as like just more common technology. The metaverse is like we're in fucking pre-production as far as I'm concerned. We have no stable environment that we can even say like, oh, if it's like this metaverse or it's like that, how Facebook did it or how Google did it or how YouTube did it or how Microsoft chose to do it with their games. We have no real data to say that this is something that's going to be sustained in the future. It's all just sort of a gamble to me. And I don't know. It's possible. Could be great, but I don't really have any faith in it. I just don't. There's nothing about it it's kind of like another thing too, is like, remember 3D televisions? 3D TVs like 15 years ago, that was supposed to be the next thing. Like everyone was going to have a 3D television, and that was going to be how we were supposed to watch TV going forward. How'd that fucking turn out? It didn't. It's gone. It's an old technology, and it seems silly right now sitting around with 3D glasses just watching sports, or watching the news. It's just not a thing. So some things just don't catch on. It's also like, 240 hertz in televisions. That soap opera effect really rubbed people the wrong way. I never really liked it. I couldn't get behind it. It's just that 240 hertz. It just looks like a soap opera. Look at The Hobbit. I've only seen the first movie, and I think it's terrible. But they shot that and outside of the 30 frames, and I think it was like 60 frames, and it just looked bad. It's totally that uncanny valley where you just know that what you're watching isn't real, and it's sort of just like it suspends that belief that, oh my god, what I'm watching is like, so I want to be there. It's like it doesn't. It looks fucking fake. It just doesn't look real. So yeah, I think the metaverse. I think it could be the same thing, but we'll see. Maybe another 10 years. If I'm still alive, maybe I'll be talking about it, saying, "Oh my God, I love the metaverse. I couldn't game without it. I couldn't live without the metaverse." But I just don't see that happening. Okay, moving along here. Battlefield 2042. So this is kind of funny. So Battlefield 2042, which bombed hard, financially, within the just the sort of the community, like the gaming community and the first person shooter community. This game is a fucking turd, and they have reached a new low. So according, I forgot to write down the article where I read this on. I actually heard it on YouTube, and then I started looking it up. So Steam has these numbers where they say congruent players. That just means players logged on playing the game at one time on Steam, just Steam alone. That doesn't include, Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo. But the data has usually been a good correlation or a good indication as to how it's doing on those other platforms, how often people are playing this game. And they are now below 1,000 players congruently. That's really bad. If you don't know, if you're a normie gamer, this is a terrible thing. This makes them look like total shit. And I think it's fucking funny. I think DICE and EA deserve all the bad press they're getting. They put out an unfinished product. They pushed it even though they knew it wasn't ready. They knew what they were doing was totally against what the community wanted, what the fans wanted. They knew it wasn't ready in terms of a technical standpoint, that it was missing so many things, and they fucking knew they were going to push it no matter what because they wanted that money. They knew they were going to get pre-orders, and they got them. I don't have any fucking sympathy for them whatsoever. This is going to be an expensive lesson to learn, and they've come out and said things and made fucking lame excuses. Like, oh, we didn't know, that we couldn't foresee this was going to happen. And Halo came out, and that really cut into our gamers' time. No, it didn't. Your game sucked. Your game sucked, and you sucked for trying to push it out. So, but yeah, dropping below 1,000 players on Steam, that's really bad. So, not good for them. Moving on here. So, Max Payne 1 and 2, it's getting a remake. So this is kind of interesting to me because I couldn't tell. I've seen it said two different ways. I've seen remaster and I've seen remake. I think it's a remake. I think they're remaking the game. 1 and 2, Max Payne 1 and 2. I never played 1 or 2. I came in at Max Payne 3. When these games came out, 2001, 2003, I was 21 years old. I was, out partying a lot. I had my license, my car. I was, old enough to go into, drinking establishments and partake illegally. And I was partying, so I really didn't game. There's a few years, especially in those early 2000s, that I didn't game a whole lot. And, and my life wasn't devoid of gaming, but I was just really busy. And on top of that, I was working crazy hours. When you're young, you can bust out a 12-hour day and then still go out and party with your friends. But I can't do that now. I'm too old. But so Max Payne 1 and 2, I didn't play them, but they are very beloved in the gaming community, and rightfully so. They tried to make a movie out of this shit with Mark Wahlberg, and it was bad. It had Mila Kunis in it, and she's really nice. But they are remaking the game, and Remedy is the studio. So Remedy made oh my god, I forgot the last game that they made. Quantum Break. That's right. That's awesome. Yeah. So Quantum Break and Alan Wake. Those are their most recent games. I swear they made Control as well. Yeah, I think they did Control as well. That's the most recent game, I think, is Control, which I never played. So this being, and again, it's saying remade. I think this is cool because it sounds like they're making the game completely from scratch. They're not going to rewrite the story or rewrite the mission structure or whatever. It's just going to be built in a new engine for current gen consoles. That's awesome. I think that's great news. And I'm sure, Max Payne fans out there, they're going to be super stoked about this. I've seen a couple of videos on this and everyone seems pretty hyped about it. They're going to be using Remedy's engine called Northlight, and that's a current gen game only too. That's another thing. They will be making it only for PS5 and Xbox One, the latest Xbox One. The only thing about this that I would say is interesting and something worth noting is, number one, Rockstar is funding this, and the thing about Rockstar right now is they kind of got some stink on their breath. Well, after the Grand Theft Auto remaster that came out, that was a just total shitstorm. I'm curious as to, like, I hope that was just a one-off, and I know that Rockstar has really turned into this sort of, they've kind of made the transition from just making great games to, they did the Grand Theft Auto thing. But then they popped the subscription for Grand Theft Auto Online. There really isn't any indication of like what's next for Grand Theft Auto. They're just sort of like, no, we're just gonna keep doing online and milking that money clock, or milking that money bag. So I just think that this could be a really great thing. But when I hear that Rockstar is involved and they're funding it, I wonder how much influence are they going to have? Is Remedy going to have total control over this, and then they're just going to get the money for resources so that they have the appropriate amount of artists and sound design and play testers and things like that? I hope so. I hope for the best, because this is something, since I never played them, to actually play them in like current gen, with everything is like rocking it in the PS5. By the time this game comes out, the PS5 will have been around for a while. The latest Xbox One will be around for a while, so they'll be able to really push the tech. I might be lucky. Maybe I'll be experiencing Max Payne 1 and 2, the best that it ever could have been. But you think about like the Grand Theft Auto remaster, people who are, younger, who maybe never played GT3 or GTA 3 or Vice City, or San Andreas. Maybe they were too young for it, and then they're like, oh, I get to go back and play these games, these classics that the older generation drool over and say are so beloved, and then they go back and play that fucking remaster, and it's just crap. I hope it's not an issue like that. It doesn't sound like it. Like I said, I believe this is a total remake, not just a remaster. So that's good news. That's cool. All right, moving along here. So Activision makes playtesters full-time with a minimum of $20 an hour. So this is over on, actually, let me see something. What was this on? Was it Inverse? Or Engadget, I'm sorry. Engadget. This was written by Kay Holt. So Activision Blizzard gives 1,100 QA testers full-time jobs and higher base pay. The move comes amid a unionization effort by QA workers at Raven Software. So Activision Blizzard is converting all of its temporary and contract quality assurance workers in the U.S. to full-time employees starting on July 1st. Many of the 1,100 workers will receive a pay raise. The minimum hourly rate is going up to $20 per hour as of April 17th. As permanent employees, the workers will receive benefits and can participate in a bonus plan. The company says bringing those workers on board as staff will bolster its development resources and increase its number of full-time employees by 25%. It recently converted nearly 500 other temp and contract roles across its studios to full-time positions. The move comes in the wake of a unionization drive spearheaded by QA team members at Raven Software. Workers from across Activision Blizzard staged a walkout in December after some Raven QA contractors were laid off. The following month, QA workers at the studio announced their intention to unionize, which would make them members of the first union at a AAA gaming company in North America. Activision declined to voluntarily recognize the Game Workers Alliance union and shuffled some people to other departments. Executives also tried to convince workers not to form a union by questioning the benefits of organizing. Nevertheless, the Raven QA workers pressed forward with their plans and have filed for a union election through the National Labor Relations Board. Quote, whether Raven workers choose to unionize has nothing to do with the salary increase elsewhere for Activision QA workers, end quote, an Activision Blizzard spokesperson told Bloomberg. The spokesperson added that Raven workers won't be eligible for the pay initiatives due to legal obligations under the National Labor Relations Act. Microsoft, which has agreed to a deal to buy the company for $68.7 billion, said last month it respected the right of Activision Blizzard employees to choose whether to be represented by a labor organization, and we will honor those decisions. So, and then it gets on to a little bit more. So, I think this is an interesting topic to me because I don't think this is a sincere gesture. I just don't. Because Activision is making this move amidst being bought. So they won't have the say before long. This will be a Microsoft call, an Xbox division call, or whatever. And the idea when I hear any CEO say, oh, we totally support unionization and we respect it, they fucking hate it. Companies, this is like the worst thing one of the worst things that a company can hear is that their employees want to unionize, because that changes the dynamic of the workforce completely. So I personally have never been in a union. I've never been a union member. Normie wife was. My parents both were. My father, shout out to Pops, he was actually a union shop steward. So I've listened to union talk most of my life from the pro-union perspective. Now that I'm older and, I sort of have my own thoughts on the matter, I think unions can cut both ways. I think it is a knife that can cut you and it's a knife that can save you. I think that they can help employees, especially in certain environments, and I always think of like Amazon. Amazon is a company that has, it's been reported, for years that working conditions for Amazon employees is not good. And it's one of the richest companies in the world. The CEO of Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, is the richest man in the United States or the richest man in the world. He's right up there. And yet his employees, the employees of his company, have to work crazy hours, have to work on all holidays. I was actually going to apply for Amazon years ago when I was still living in California. They opened up a warehouse not far from where I lived, and I was like, well, hey, that's a huge company, And this was like about 4 years ago. And so I went online and started researching and just looking, and I was reading a lot of testimonies, and they were all negative. There was just so much negative stuff about, working there. And so for me, that to me makes sense. That's the type of work that, I think that a union for the employees would be a good thing. It might be necessary. Now, I don't know all the logistics of it, so I'm not going to sit here and say, we need to unionize Amazon, and that's the right thing to do, and everyone should follow that. No, I'm just saying, just based on that information. Again, and I'm no professional. I don't know. I know what I know, and it's all secondhand information. My relatives and family and friends have they've been in unions, and then they tell me like what goes on with them. But I've never experienced it myself. I don't think that unions are always the solution, though. I think that when I say that that knife cuts both ways, is I would listen to my old man tell me about union employees who would come to him, and there were people that were in the union that they would just fuck off. They would just make terrible decisions, coming in late, no call, no show. They would get injured, and then they'd have to go do a drug test, and they would fail it. And a lot of these employees would come to the shop stewardess and say, "Save me. This isn't fair. Why am I? They're trying to fire me, and why this isn't fair. You guys need to step up for me." Okay, well, what happened? Well, I didn't come into work on Monday. Okay, did you call in? No. Why not? Well, because of fucking whatever. I couldn't get to a payphone or yada yada. It's just a bunch of crap. Was excuses. Okay, did you come in the next day? I did, but I didn't come in until late. I came in like an hour late. Well, did you call anybody? Nope, I just came in. And it's like, it was just constantly, I won't say that wasn't every situation, but there was a lot of that. There was constant, abuse of the system, abuse of being a union member. So that happens, right? That does happen. And I think unions can have too much power. I think the teachers union, especially in California, has too much power. They should not have the power that they have. I think it's unhealthy. And I think that, there are environments where employees need to have someone there for them, because here's an example. I worked at a corporation, a very big one. I'm not going to name what it was. I worked there for like 3 months. And I went to this company because the starting pay was really good. And, my daughter was very young, like a year or two old. And I was like, I got to make more money. I got bills to pay. Right. And so when I started the job, I thought, okay, man, I'm going to fucking walk in making this amount of money, and the overtime's there. And back then it was all about overtime. Right. And, the schedule was really weird to me. I didn't understand it at the time. It was like, I had to work. I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was off Thursday, and then I had to work Friday, and then I was off Saturday. Then I had to work Sunday. And I didn't get it at that time, but the reason why this schedule was laid out that way was because as long as I didn't work a certain amount of days consecutively, working X amount of hours, they didn't have to provide me with benefits. Now, I didn't know that at the time. I was just, when I started, I was just like, wait, I just want to make money. And the company, when they brought me in, they were like, oh, so you'll be on probation for, I don't know how long it was. It was like 90 days or 6 months or whatever the hell it was. And it was like, okay, you're going to work for that long, and then you're going to come on full time, and then you're going to work Monday through Friday, or Sunday through Thursday, or Tuesday through Saturday. Like that was, so, and I was like, hey, you know what? That's not bad. I'm cool with that. And the more I started working, and the job was super physical. It was not an easy job. And even though I was young, it was still like, it was a heavy, like a lot of lifting. It was very heavy or hard on your body. And so I started getting in with some of the employees, like, you start working, coworkers, you see them every day. And, I started listening to them, and the things that they were saying, it was like, some guys had been there for like 11 months. Some guys had been there for over a year, and they were still, quote, temporary employees, because that's what I was when I started job. They're like, you're a temporary employee technically. And I was like, really? I'm a temporary employee, but I work 58 hours last week? What the fuck is that? What? So what I learned was this company they would hire you on, and then you would make it to your probation period, and they would either let you go and then hire you back. They would say you fucked up, you did something wrong, and they would cut. That was the reason to cut you loose. But they didn't want to lose you. They didn't want to lose your back, and they didn't want to lose your time. They wanted to not have to pay you, so they would let you go, and they would reinstate your probation for another 6 months. And that was bullshit. And I was like, how are they getting away with this shit? How am I a temporary employee? Because that was the whole thing. It was like temp to hire. That was the big selling point. And I worked there for, like I said, 3 months, and I was immediately, I was out. The schedule sucked. My hours just got longer and longer. I was going in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was getting off at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. One time I got off at like 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I was working ridiculous fucking hours. And on top of that, you get one day off, then you work again, and then you work a few more days, and you get one day off. It sucked. I mean, it sucked. And it was just it was a shit gig. And the thing about it, though, going back to this whole union thing, was like that type of behavior from corporations, I think, needs to be put in check. You have to, there has to be rules that have to be applied, and companies, they're fucking billionaire companies for a reason. They know how to they know loopholes. They know state legislation and federal legislation. They know how to circumvent those obstacles so that they can get the most out of their employees with paying them the least amount and providing the least amount of benefits. So when I hear them talk about unions, I'm kind of 50-50. I think it really it could be a really good thing. And looking at, Activision and the department that they said they're the quality play testers, so those are just game testers. They're the ones who they play the game, they test it out, and they have parameters that they have to work on, and they report all the bugs. They tell their QA leads and stuff. They say, hey, this shit's broken, level whatever at this, and they provide footage and all this other shit. But it's a very important process. Play testers and game testers, that's a very important piece of that puzzle to make that game complete. And I was going to work at one time. I met a guy who was he worked at a very big company. Actually, I can say it. It's not a big deal. It was Rockstar San Diego. And he was talking about getting me a job. Now, I already had a good job, and I was going to have to take a pay cut to go there. But he was saying, like, hey, if you want to get in the industry, I'll get you a job. And he was the QA lead. And and I was like, okay. Well, then I talked to some other guys that he worked with him, and it just didn't seem that, it seemed like it kind of sucked. Like, it really did. And part of the reason why was because they were, now, I don't know these guys in particular. They didn't tell me this, but I know, like, in this case with Activision, and I know it's common in the industry, that playtesters are typically not full-time employees. They're temporary or contract employees, which means they don't have to pay them a certain amount. They don't have to give them benefits and pay time off and all of the shit. And they use them up. They abuse those employees, and not, I don't mean like physically abuse them. I mean, they abuse their time. They abuse them, their schedules and that type of shit, and they don't compensate them. So I understand. I get it. I think that unions can be a good thing, but I think unions can grow beyond their means, and you just have a group of employees in a union that's so powerful and so strong that they can start affecting things that I don't think they should. Thinking about like the teachers union, it's like they shouldn't have any fucking say in how to raise your kids. They just shouldn't. They shouldn't have any say as to when they're going to shut down and when they're just going to be open. Like, they can just close down whenever the fuck they want to. They just decide, oh, for medical reasons, we're just going to shut it down, And then people who are actually working, parents who have jobs and stuff, they're like, well, fuck, I don't have my kid supposed to be in school for 6-7 hours. Now I got to, miss work and all this other shit. So I think that they can definitely be an issue. And, to go back to just particularly with Activision, I think this is just fucking bullshit. I think this is a posturing. They're trying to make themselves look kind of good. And I understand this Raven thing, the Raven Studios and that stuff, that happened before the announcement of the purchase, but they knew. Activision knew that they were going to be bought. They knew that they were shopping, they were shopping suitors, and this is just bullshit. This is just how it looks. And I think that, going back to just playtesters in general, employees, they need to be fairly compensated. And, playtesters, they are required. There's a lot required from them. A lot of their time is required and a lot of effort. Fucking compensate them, like, just you pay your employees, that's the thing. And I just think too many corporations, they get away with shit like that. Like I said, loopholes, man, they're all about it. But we'll see what happens here. Like I said, this is Microsoft thing, and this is Microsoft's problem now. And I've been hearing some things about Activision being bought by Microsoft and how this could be an issue and how the government's stepping in. And so but I need to do some more research, because I was reading some things and hearing some things about the government and how this deal for Activision Blizzard to be purchased by Microsoft is actually running into some speed bumps here, and that the government's sort of stepping in. And part of the problem is also the fact that Activision has these pending lawsuits, these problems going on with Activision Blizzard, with the California state, suing them with all these, so there's tons of, this is a big deal. Like this is a big mess for them. And my understanding and how I understood it was the company is being overvalued right now. Like Microsoft is, by them buying Activision Blizzard, the stock prices is boosting because Big Daddy Microsoft is here to cure all the financial problems, right? And therefore, all of the legal shit that they're going through, all the allegations and the lawsuit that they're embroiled in right now, which is lowering the value of their stock. This purchase is actually an artificial inflation. It's making the stock seem more appealing, and it seems like it's worth more when the company really isn't. So, but again, that's about as deep as I can understand. I'm not a big financials guy, but what I was reading, that's kind of how I understood it to be. So who knows? I mean, I don't think that this is going to stop Activision Blizzard from being purchased by Microsoft, but maybe. Who knows? We never know. And like I said, I'm not a big fan of corporations vacuuming up everything in sight, because that's like heading down to like the actual cyberpunk future, dystopian future, where corporations run the world. All right, so enough on that one. Let's move along here. Only a couple more to go. Actually, no, this is the last one. Sorry. So Sony is not buying Kojima Productions. So this one's kind of just a quick one, just to kind of wrap up the day here. So there was a tweet that Hideo Kojima, I think it's Hideo Kojima, who is the head of Kojima Productions, like the founder. He's the creative mind behind the Metal Gear Solid games, and he has a very big name in the gaming industry, and that's rightfully so. I'm not a huge fan of the Metal Gear games, but I understand it. I get why they're special, and I love it. I just think the stories, to me, are like, what the fuck is going on? Like, trying to understand a Kojima game, like or a Metal Gear game, and like the story and plot is just fucking, it's weird. But I like the weirdness. I do. I appreciate that. I enjoy that type of shit. It just never really hooked me. The stories always just threw me off. They also came out with Death Stranding, which I never played because I didn't want to play Norman Reedus as a FedEx delivery guy in the future. However, my understanding is there's a lot more to it, and it is unassumedly addictive. Like, it doesn't look like anything, but like when you play the game, every person that I've heard speak on it that have played it and beat it, the reason why they loved it was because it was addictive in a way they didn't see coming. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You know what? That's right on. So maybe one day I'll play it. But anyways, so Hideo Kojima, he tweeted a picture, and it was like PlayStation. It sort of was like this cryptic tweet that made it seem like Kojima Productions was being bought by Sony. And then he came out like a day later, 2 days later, and said, no, that's not true. That's not happening. The thing is this could be leaked information, and maybe this was spoken too soon. And this happened with Blue Point Games when they were bought by Sony. The same thing happened where information came out, and everybody was like, oh, what, is Blue Point getting bought by Sony? And, they denied it. Sony denied it, and Blue Point denied it, only for a few months later for them to come out and say, hey, guess what? We're buying Blue Point. So I don't know if this is the same thing. I just know that this looks similar. So I'm not going to write this off as like, nope, not happening. They're not buying Kojima Productions. I still think it's on the table, and it seems like a good fit because Sony and Hideo Kojima have been working side by side for decades. So it wouldn't shock me at all. And this would, I guess, would be good for Sony. It's not like I can't wait for the next, Kojima game, but I know the Kojima fans are. I mean, so that's always cool. And with Microsoft, they're buying shit up. Again, this is a fucking arms race, and I'm wondering where this is going to end, because if this happens, and then, this is going to go back and forth. Sony has already said they're going to continue to buy studios. Microsoft has already said they're going to continue to buy studios. Microsoft took the first real run at a publisher. Sony, I think, will probably have to respond to that at some point and buy a publisher, maybe not one as big, but I still feel the same way that I've always felt. This arms race for vacuuming up all the studios is not going to end like I think we all want it to. I think right now it's blue versus green, and everyone's sort of cheering for their team. And every time Microsoft buys something, Sony fans shit on it and say that blah, blah, blah. And then whenever time Sony buys something, Microsoft fans come out and say, well, at least it's not Activision and they don't have shit. And it's like the argument's still going. I still think that being a fan of the consoles is a good thing. I still think being a fan of and supporting the things that the ecosystems that you like to live in and playing the games that you want to play, I still think it's a really good thing. And I think it's necessary in that sort of allegiance to products is okay. And there's people out there who are like, I only wear Nikes, bro. That's the only, I'm not doing anything other. Fuck a Reebok, fuck a Fila. It's Nike or bust. There are people that, they're like, Ford is a piece of shit and I only drive Chevy, or Dodge rules and Chevy's trash. These type of allegiances always happen. Brand allegiance is a very normal thing. It's tribal. I don't necessarily agree with it, but everybody does it. So everyone has their thing that they're all for. And I love it when these agnostic people, they come in and they're like, I support everything. I own every console, therefore I have no allegiance. Like, well, easy. Don't get too big for your britches. How about your vehicles? How about your clothes? How about your food? How about the sports team? It's just there's always some sort of allegiance, and I think it's just biology. This is the way we're wired. I don't have a problem with that. And in the gaming environment and in with Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation, I've got no problem with that. I just think that if you're an Xbox fan or you're a Sony fan, I think that you should pay attention to these things for the bigger picture. I think in the bigger picture, them taking in all these corporations and all these businesses, at some point, the head of these corporations, they could make a decision that you really don't agree with. And then that decision bleeds down through all of the companies that you love so much, all of the developing teams that you've played games for over the decades, and you've spent money on and time on, which is the most important commodity, is time. We're spending money to spend time with this project. I think that and I wish more people would see that and look at the landscape as a whole, because I think it's important. I really do. I think that this could end 10 years from now in a really bad way. It could end in 5 years from now in a really bad way. Who knows? But I just don't think it's a good idea to have two corporations owning all of gaming. Just don't think it's good. But that's where we're at right now. So, and they're going to continue to do it. All right. So this is a long one. Like I said, I was out for 2 weeks, I haven't been on here for 2 weeks. But it's nice to be back in the chair. Nice to be in front of the camera again. Sitting here and going through all this stuff. I had a lot of things that I was on here that had a lot more notes and a lot more stories that I had to start chopping things that I thought were not as important because it was just too much. I had like 5 pages and I was like, "Ooh, I can't do this. I just don't have the voice for it or the time." But I'm going to wrap it up. Like I said, I am going to be doing a Moon Knight review. I should be starting on that this week. Hopefully by Friday, we'll have a review out of the episodes 1 and 2. So look for that. If you like this video, you think someone else might like it, please share it with a friend. If you haven't subscribed, click that button. You have a great week. I hope you had a good and safe weekend, and I hope that you had a good, happy Easter Sunday to everybody. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.